Hey guys, happy Motivation Monday. This is Jessica Prater with another coffee chat this morning, talking a little bit about motivation. My guest today is Rainey. Casey is local here to the Middle Tennessee area. He has over 10 years of experience in the financial industry. He believes he can add value to his clients' wealth management needs through his experience in navigating assets through one of the most volatile time periods in our country. With a BBA in finance from Middle Tennessee State University and through the completion of financial planning education program from Kaplan University, Casey has the education along with the resources of Raymond James, and he strives to provide the best advice possible to his clients. He's also very committed, as you can see through this conversation, to providing a strong ongoing client service experience. Casey's passionate about community involvement. He's currently on the United Way of Rutherford and Cannon County boards. He's also very involved in Blue Raider athletics and attend World Outreach Church in Murfreesboro. For fun, he's an avid golfer. He attends many college sporting events and loves to travel with his wife, Marcy. I can tell you guys that here in the Middle Tennessee area, Casey is a mover and shaker. He is someone that is extremely well connected in the community and very well respected. I was excited for him to join me as a guest. All right. Hey, Casey, how are you?
Hey, Jessica, I'm good.
Thanks so much for being on today with our Motivation Monday conversation. So the question, the icebreaker that I ask everybody that have done these interviews with me is, if you and I were meeting up for coffee, what would you be ordering for yourself?
So most of the time when I'm meeting for coffee, it's at Simply Pure Sweets here in town. I think you've seen me there a couple of times. And I like to throw them off a little bit. So I may order the same thing for like a month and then all of a sudden throw something else at them just to see Chantel like go, what? Because they were probably making it for me before I got there.
Yeah.
Typically I am a black coffee, dark roast, medium roast, doesn't matter. But every once in a while I'll flip it into an Americano if I really need to get, if I'm feeling a little extra, trying to get that pick me up to start the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been telling Chantel, so everybody local here to the Murfreesboro area that I've interviewed has said Simply Pure Sweets or Just Love Coffee. And I keep telling Chantel, I'm like, I feel like I need a sponsorship for this show.
Yeah.
So they have
you
the
just
best.
got a free plug. Yeah.
Chantel over at Simply Pure Sweets has some awesome coffee. So excellent.
Yeah.
Well, the question that I've been diving in with folks over this past year that I've been doing this interview series is, what motivates you in your career and business? So if I pose that question for you, Casey, what comes up?
Well, the motivation part started back in college. I kind of knew what it took me a little while to get on the career path that I wanted. Obviously, you're fresh out of school. Not a lot of companies want to take chances on somebody that's right out of school to manage assets and that kind of thing. And but my motivation has to deal with my clients and seeing them get to achieve their goals, or just go through life with them, and really be a source for them to help achieve their goals, help them not only on a financial side, but a lot of times, maybe on a personal side or something like that, with conversations that might deal with other areas outside of just what I do. And so I'd say my motivation is really my clients. That's what I love about my job. I love working with people. I love working with clients. I'm not a manager. I kind of got out of that realm when I left the bank several years ago. That just wasn't me. I wanted to be. There's a lot of people that I think find out real quickly that their motivation is working up a corporate ladder, which is great, or their motivation is seeing their clients or their customers and their faces every day, and how much joy they when they work hard that they can bring them. And that's my motivation.
Yeah, I love that. So Casey, you're having a lot of conversations with people about finances, which is a hard topic sometimes, and things that
Right.
are also long-term goals. So what are pieces of advice that you're giving your clients sometimes that they're kind of got a big hill to climb, or they've got a long-term goal that they have to achieve? What are some of the things that you're telling them?
Well, I think the most common piece of advice, or just what the direction that the conversation goes to, is it's never too late. I think a lot of folks come in and think it's too late, but also um, it's it's what I do. I don't think is rocket science. It's not, but a lot of people are nervous when it comes to dealing with money and things like that. So most of the time I tell them that don't be scared to ask any questions, no matter how insignificant they may think that question is, because comfortability and trust building is part of the job. And I think uh, the uneasiness that starts with clients on an initial meeting with me typically has to do with maybe how they've had other interactions with other folks. And so typically I like to start with allowing the customer to tell, or client to tell me about themselves, really get a comfortability set up before we go into any details or anything like that. Because I want them to realize that we're in this to work together. It's not me saying do this or do that. It's us coming to an agreement that this is the best choice, or this is the best way to go about things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved that you talked about, Casey, kind of breaking down that wall of not being afraid to ask questions. So
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but me, I am a, traditional Southern gal. Like, money is not something that I'm extremely comfortable talking about. How do you work with your clients to get them to open up and ask questions and feel comfortable really, working with you truly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the issues that we deal with quite often in this world. And some people are different than others. Some people are really open, and they're open right off the bat. I think the biggest thing is just when I discuss on an initial meeting is that in order to get the best outcome, we have to have all the information. And so if we leave out parts, then the outcome might be affected, or the choices that we come up with might not be the correct ones if we don't have all the information. So I think once we talk a little bit about needing all the bits and pieces, a lot of times it kind of gets them into the fact of, or it gets them into the position of, okay, I need to share everything that's going on and not hide anything, so that we can definitely get the right plan together for the outcomes that we need. A lot of folks don't want to talk about what kind of debts they have, and this, that, and the other. And so that's obviously a tough conversation. But by covering the you know by covering how we want to get to the outcome and what's needed to get to the outcome before we discuss any information personally, I think gets them in a mindset of, okay, we can do this, we can get to this outcome that we want, but we do have to give. We can't hide anything or not share some pieces of information that may be important. So having that discussion on the front end, I think in my world, and I started off, I've learned this over time. I mean, I started off asking, direct questions right off the bat. Should we invest in this, that, all that kind of stuff, and wanting to show my knowledge, right, of all the investment stuff. And you start talking to somebody about standard deviations and betas and this, that, and the other in the first 10 minutes, and you're not going to have a client, in my opinion. I mean, it's either going to go over their head, or they're not. That's not what they're there for. They're there to hire us. They know that if they hopefully choose us to go and help them, that we'll know that information and we can relay that information. But on the front end, there just needs to be that, hey, I need to be able to get them and explain to them things that they can understand, not things that they may not understand on that initial meeting. Because the more they understand, the more comfortable they're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really valuable to talk about as you're working with a customer. If they're hesitant, if they're, maybe not seeing the bigger picture, talking about what matters to them and talking about what outcomes they want to see is really
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, you and I have talked about this some kind of offline because I think this is really interesting, and fear is something that I study, in my practice, in my business.
Hmm.
There's a lot of fear around finances, particularly when it comes to the stock market and things outside
Hmm.
of out of our control. So I'm just curious from your perspective, how do you really see fear coming up for people as they're working in their finances and in their business? And how do you coach people through those situations? I know you and I talked about the stock market earlier this year, but how do you coach people through those situations where they might see things that make them fearful?
Well, that's a good question because it's something that I've had to learn from or learn over the years. I'm in my almost 15th year now of this business, so uh, been there has been several different time periods. Obviously, the most notable one is the Great Recession in '08 and '09, but several time periods that I've had to deal with market volatility and clients calling in with concerns and fear. And the first thing I always tell them is that I have the same ones, right? I mean, we're not human if we're not bothered by stock markets going down, if we have money invested. That's just part of it. But what I try to instill in folks is that in the course of history, there's not been a way to time things. This, going out this time or coming back this time, or there's lots of people that say they can do that, but if that was easy to do, everybody would be doing it, right? So, the thing is to talk through what their fears are. Are there fears because the market's down? Are there fears because they think they might run out of money? Are there fears? There's several different things that can play into that. And then just basically start from that, and walk them through steps on, okay, well, if this is our fear, but this is our goal, if we want to, move this fear away, or get less of it, or, decrease the fear exposure there, then we've got to maybe adjust our goals a little bit. And so sometimes having the discussion of not only what's going on in the current environment, but what the long-term goals are, if those haven't changed, then we have to kind of try to come to some medium. Now, what I have learned over the course of my career is that, the client has to be able to sleep at night. Okay, you can't, even though I might think that there's a specific path that they need to do this. If they can't, if they're not comfortable or being able to sleep at night, or and I have conversations with my clients that if they're not sleeping at night, we need to make a change. Regardless of how, yes, that may affect the overall outcome, but it doesn't need to affect their everyday well-being, because it's in the grand scheme of things, it's only money, and money needs to be managed. It needs to be managed properly, and needs to be managed given goals and risk tolerances and all that stuff. But at the same time, we're all human, and if we're going to have a good quality way of life, we can't be losing sleep. We can't be losing sleep at night over our investments or finances and things like that. So typically, the fear conversation is, okay, what is the fear? Where is it coming from? Where was it rooted? Then let's turn over here and talk about our goals, and then let's kind of meet in the middle and figure out the best way to get a plan together that's going to allow the customer to be able, or client to be able to, soothe that fear a little bit, but not affect it, or as much as possible affect their long-term goals. That's really the only way to. And a lot of times it's never going to eliminate those fears altogether. What a lot of clients don't understand is there's other risks involved outside of just market risks. But I don't, there's ways to talk about that, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I am sincere, and I guess making sure that I understand where their fears are rooted, and not just trying to show other fears that they could have just because they're changing one thing that may affect another thing. I think we can get to a place where everybody understands that. It's just, it's a conversation that comes up, and typically my phone doesn't ring like that when the market's up. It only rings like it when the market gets down. I used to use this old cliche that if the market's down and you hate me that month, that's great. When you throw that brick through a window, make sure there's $100 bill wrapped to it so I can invest it since the market's down. That's an investment cliche in our business, but but fear is part of this job, and so it's something I've had to learn on how to cope with clients. I think I mentioned to you before, I kind of wish I had a psychology major versus a finance major. But that's okay. I've learned on the job, and that's not even though it's never an easy conversation to have, it's one that I don't shy away from, maybe that I might have early on in the career because I was scared too, kind of thing.
Excellent. Well, Casey, you've shared with us a lot of great wisdom, and I really appreciate it. And I want to tell you as well, very publicly, thank you for the contributions that you make to our community. I know you're a well-respected member of our community, and I'm certainly honored that you joined us as a guest today. Thank you so much for sharing what you have.
Yeah, well, thanks for allowing me to jump on here and have coffee with you this morning in a virtual reality world. And yeah, anytime, Jessica. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. Thanks, Casey.